let's go New England Patriots get the win over the Buffalo Bills. They had the number 1 seed when the day started, or the number 1 pick when the day started today. They no longer have it. They're down to 4. Patriots 23, Bills 16. Joe Milton got the majority of the action. Drake May got the start, as did Josh Allen.
Of course, the New England Patriots beat the Josh Allen-led Buffalo Bills, right?
Josh Allen, 0-1 QB wins here today. And then Joe Milton comes in, goes 22 of 29 for 241. Touchdown through the air, touchdown on the ground, throwing lasers all over the yard. There are some secret Joe Milton fans around, especially after seeing what the potential was in Tennessee. And we don't have the counterfactual. We don't have the week 2 game for Joe Milton. The next game, we have a whole offseason of Joe Milton hype coming up here. And then coming out of this game, Jerod Mayo essentially fired before he even got back into the locker room.
Yeah.
That announcement was made by Robert Kraft. The Patriots finished at 4-13 for the second straight year. So Bill Belichick 4-13 last year, Jerod Mayo 4-13 in his one-and-done season as Patriots head coach. And so add the Patriots to the mix as far as teams looking for a head coach.
Just to be clear, for anybody that wasn't watching all the games, Josh Allen started the game to keep the start streak alive, took a handoff, or gave a handoff rather, and then left the game.
Yeah. As I said in the preview show, it's short-sighted. Your points per game and Josh Allen's start stat is getting all screwed. His passing yards per game stat, all of his stats are getting screwed just so that you can keep the starting streak alive. Really short-sighted by the Bills.
Right. So he didn't really beat a Josh Allen-led Buffalo team. But anyway, Joe Milton looked fantastic. You say, we don't get to see what next week would look like. You know, Drew Lock looked fantastic last week, and Drew Lock generally is not a good quarterback. So, you know, it's a little early to rewrite the draft order from last year and say we all screwed it up. Joe Milton should have been number 1 overall. But he looked spectacular. I mean, you can't take anything away from what he did in this game. And maybe his best play of the game didn't count. It was negated by a holding penalty, which, by the way, reminded me that specific play. It's like running around the backfield, evading pressure, scrambling past the guy, goes away to his left, and then sort of turns around, fires the ball in the corner of the end zone, touchdown. No, negated. That play reminded me so much of the play where Tyrod Taylor in college did it to Stanford, I think. Yeah. Almost the same thing.
In the Orange Bowl.
Scrambling around, runs to his left, and fires the ball, finds the guy in the corner of the end zone for a touchdown.
You've been sold on him ever since.
Love that play. Like, that play made me fall for Tyrod Taylor as a quarterback. This was very, very similar. And it was just one of the spectacular plays that he made in the game.
He did look good. I mean, he looked balanced and under control, throwing the ball accurately. The accuracy was an issue in college.
Right, not in this game.
Accuracy is a thing I always talk about. It's 2 different things. You just miss more throws than you should hit. That's accuracy issues, and then ball location. I think in college, Milton just missed more than he should have, but it doesn't mean you can't make good throws. And it also brought up power listener Andrew Boll, who just emailed us during the show here to remind us back on March 4th. He said, someone explained to me the difference between Joe Milton and Anthony Richardson coming out of college. And Andrew made the astute point that maybe they should have been closer together with similar tools. Maybe not the same runner, Milton, as Richardson, but similar arm strength and accuracy issues. In fact, Milton even more accurate from a completion percentage perspective in college. And so astute point that maybe we could dive into a little bit more in the offseason. I think it's a good problem to have for New England, that you might have a high upside backup. And you and I were reminiscing about the old NFL, and there's some debates right now about, is this group of quarterbacks better than the last regime? And I don't think it is there yet. But there was a point 10, 15 years ago where there was only 15 guys you cared about as a starter. And as soon as any backup showed anything, they would get traded and given a starting role. We're not in that world now because there's so many QBs drafted, and there's a lot of, I think, starting caliber QBs around the NFL, right? But if this was 15, 20 years ago, I'm telling you, this one start, somebody would be firing second rounders at New England to get Joe Milton, saying we want that guy as our future starter.
AJ Feely, Kevin Cobb, like this would be the next one of those type
Rob
plays.
Johnson went 20 for 24 in week 1 in 1997, and the Bills sent their first round pick, number 10 overall, to the Jags for him. That was the old world when you couldn't find a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL.
Right. I mean, it was absolutely incredible by him. He looked really impressive. Remember, like, if you want to construct Joe Milton propaganda, I'm here for it. Like, I'll help you build a case. in the preseason, right? When Drake May was struggling, when Drake May was not looking good in training camp, the reports coming out of Patriots camp were that Joe Milton was outperforming Drake May. Now Drake May looks spectacular. What if the reports were still correct?
Listen, this is the Bills' backups and everything. They were playing their backups. Von Miller
Doesn't matter.
Got his sack for
We're building
his
propaganda
incentive.
here. Facts are irrelevant.
Oh, build the propaganda.
Drake
All
May,
right.
only, 0 completions.
So Jerod Mayo got fired.
Yes.
I wasn't expecting it to happen that quickly. It happened directly after the game. Were you surprised that Mayo was fired this quickly here?
I was surprised that he was fired this quickly, yes. I mean, this was, like, they did it so fast with a pre-prepared statement. I mean, this was coming, right? This was not a fit of rage because they lost the pick.
No, I still like to think that this was Robert Kraft in the owner's box typing away or dictating to his secretary, of course, as they're winning the game and losing the number one overall pick.
I mean, this is a pretty embarrassing situation for the Krafts, right? This was the anointed, chosen one, the successor, right? That they were so confident in that for years, apparently, they had this written into his contract. They were afraid of losing.
They were keeping him from interviewing for other
right.
jobs.
They were afraid of losing Jerod Mayo to a different job somewhere. So they had it written into his contract that he would succeed Bill Belichick when eventually that move happened. They decide, right? We've identified now. Turns out Bill Belichick, the greatest coach of all time, is actually the problem now. It's his fault. Everything's falling apart, unraveling. We're going to get rid of him. And everything will be great. Don't worry, because we've got his replacement. We've secured it. We locked it down. We saw it coming. We found the solution. We've identified the problem. This is how a well-run organization operates. Nailed it, right? Week 1 happens. We beat the playoff-bound Cincinnati Bengals. We're like running laps, right? There's a celebration up in Robert Kraft's little throne seat up in the box.
He admitted as much in the statement.
Right.
Paraphrasing, he basically said, I had confidence. I had pegged him as the future, and that confidence rose after the week 1 win against the Bengals.
After week 1, they must be like popping champagne. We have nailed this. Belichick is finally away from this organization. He's no longer dragging us down like an anchor. Right, we've liberated from this miserable, dictatorial coach. Jerod Mayo's taken over. We just beat the Bengals. We're playoff bound, baby. This is all good. And then the Patriots resume their spot as the worst team in the NFL, essentially, from that spot on, and are so bad that even though Drake May looks great, right, and they got that win at the start, and they look ridiculous by having to make this decision, they have concluded that this is so non-workable. We have to fire him after the year. I mean, this is insanely embarrassing from their point of view.
I think it was better to maybe fail quickly and get out of it. I credit them for at least getting out when they felt like they needed to and not saying, we got some pride here. Like Jerry might stick with it for the next 3 years, and grind it out. But it probably was a mistake up front. I'll say at a high level, I've said it all year. They had 4-13, same record as last year. I know the Bills played backups, what have you. It was a bad team last year. They re-signed a lot of the players on the bad team last year, and they just added a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, and look,
expectations should not have been high.
Correct.
They should have been a 4, 5, 6 win team at best this year, and that's what they were. The problem was in handling the media, handling game situations. There was just a lot of places where Jerod Mayo felt over his head. And if Bill Belichick was coaching this team, they probably win 6 games this year, right? They weren't good. But Jerod Mayo also probably wasn't good in his first year as head coach.
I mean, look, I believe that this team was favored for the number 1 overall pick before the season started. So from one perspective, you can look at it and say they overachieved, right?
Yeah.
They actually did better than they were supposed to. Jerod Mayo ultimately was dealt a personnel group where he had the worst offensive line in the NFL on paper, and he had the worst receiving core in the NFL on paper. Like, this is a garbage roster in large part, right? Of course they're going to stink. They were supposed to stink. They did stink. It makes total sense. But it's all the other stuff, right? There was a lot of, you don't buy into a lot of this stuff, but there was some really awkward, bad, handling of various things, right? I think that's the stuff.
He called the team soft after a bad performance. He said he was going to bench Ramondre Stevenson.
To the media,
but then they
announcers.
gave him the first snaps, and then they didn't give him the rest of the snaps.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of didn't feel like he was completely in control. Even from training camp, though, it was being reported. It's like, oh, he's a player's coach now, but it was like trying to be the anti-Bill, but keep the Patriots way, and it was very difficult to. Even the whole coaching staff, by the way, a mishmash of people from all over the place that just didn't seem to mesh.
Which, remember, a year ago, that's what Carolina did. And at the time, it was sort of like, well, maybe this is smart. You take some of the new school, you take some of the old school, you get the best of both worlds. And what happened with them is these people don't exist on the same plane. Like, they can't communicate and work together. That doesn't work. You need either all of one or all of the other. You can't, like, jam together this hodgepodge of disparate coaching schemes and philosophies.
It also sets up this dynamic where the number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams, the number 3 overall pick, Drake May, their team's looking for new head coaches right now, where number 2 overall pick, Jaden Daniels, is off to the playoffs. Bo Nix off to the playoffs. But the 1 and 3 picks now need the next guy to develop them.
And the other element of this, why did New England make this move happen 16 seconds after the game ended, right? One reason is if the guy they want in the building next is if it's a time-sensitive thing, right? Mike Vrabel got released from his consultancy job from Cleveland recently, so he could get a jump on these head coaching vacancies. Well, Mike Vrabel has some pretty clear ties to the New England Patriots. I wonder, is that the guy that they're like, we need to get him now so he doesn't go and interview with Chicago, with whoever, right?
I could see them wanting Vrabel.
Yeah.
I could see them wanting another person with Patriots ties, but this time it's experience. This guy has experience as a head coach. He's gone to an AFC championship.
I would find it quite funny if he just spent the next 20 years, like, just going through everybody that was in part of the Belichick regime somewhere along the way.
Does he go Jim Irsay?
Like Jim Irsay's solution is who's close to Peyton Manning.
Is Richard Seymour available?
Yeah.
Can we get you? I know you have no experience, but can you be the new head coach?
I saw Matt Light recently doing, Julian Edelman's podcast.
Matt Light is hunting. Did you see that recent story? Matt Light's hunting at Gillette again. Maybe you could coach the team or something.
While he's there, can we just get him in and run practice?
Anyway, we'll have much more. Unfortunately, there might be other movement and coaches fired and everything tomorrow morning. And we'll have more on that Wednesday when we get back together back in Cincinnati.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.